Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fantasy Six Pack. This is your pal, Austin, and we're going to continue this game show series with the specific goal of learning and growing together. My overall concept for this video is to create a more engaging experience between the two of us and kind of problem solving and sort of hitting some of the important stats, underlying stats, I think, that are going on in baseball that are really important right now, and even, share some really relevant fantasy baseball information about some players that are most likely available even in your league. So what we're going to do today, the title of this video is a trivia game show. The engaging part of this trivia game show is that you can interact with me, along with me, and play along even at home. So if you're on a desktop, it's probably the easiest to play the video on the desktop and answer the questions on your own on your phone. So this is an awesome opportunity if you would like to play along on your own and have an opportunity to answer the questions before I give you the answer. Simply go into the comments and click the link to the quiz and start the quiz as I get into the quiz, and we'll do it together kind of thing. So anyways, going to said quiz, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And if you're at home, playing along as well, then you would go and hit play solo. And I am going to go through the questions. Obviously, so the way that this works, the faster that you answer the question, the more points you get. In regards to, I think, live competitions, it might just give you an overall 1 out of 8 question total, but whatever, we'll go through it. So there's a lot of buzz around a particular play on the Miami Marlins, and his name is Luis Urias. It's not super common that we have players that are hitting 400 like at this point in the year. We're 46.3% through the season as of right now, again, June 22nd, Thursday, 2023. But anyways, the Miami Marlins leadoff hitter, Luis Urias, is carrying a staggering 398 batting average so far this season, but he ranks only third in expected batting average. And my question to you all is, who are first and second? So why I bring this up, batting average compared to expected batting average. And I think this year's maybe a little skewed because StatCast has been collecting every ball put in play, whether it was an out or a hit, its trajectory, its exit velocity, and all these different things for so long that coming into 2023 and all of a sudden now, reverberating back to a non-shift baseball, game. What does that mean? To me, the overall stats are interesting regarding these players because, to me, Ronald Acuna Jr. and Corey Seager is the answer. And why is Corey Seager? Maybe I know what, I probably think I gave that away too early in this, but we're gonna just problem solve and get through this together because I'm on my own. Usually I have a whole crowd that's doing this with me, but they couldn't be here tonight, so we're just gonna go through it. Luis Urias he has a 398 batting average as of today, but if we look at the underlying stats so far this year, he is expected really to only have a 338 expected batting average given defensive shifts and things through the years. The overall aggregated data across all these years of StatCast has been collecting all of this information. He is supposed to actually have a 60-point drop-off in production. So why I bring this up is while Luis Urias is in if he is a lineup or part of your lineup, I'm kind of always an advocate to get rid of people when they're at their highest value to bring back more valuable and more sustainable players, moving forward. And in this regard, Luis Urias, I don't think he's going to be able to continue hitting around 400, and understand that the underlying stats, his expected batting average is around 338. And if he's around 338, then he is getting grossly outproduced, like all other years leading up to this year, by the players like Ronald Acuna Jr. and Corey Seager and these top performers that actually hit for power. So again, the underlying why I bring up Ronald Acuna Jr. and Corey Seager, they are kind of a tale of two. Though Ronald Acuna Jr.'s actual average is only 327. He's expected to be hitting 352, and he is actually first in that category. So I'm going to pause it just so we don't run out of time. But Ronald Acuna Jr. so far this season has the highest expected batting average, and on top of that, hitting for power and stealing 30 bases. He's just doing it all, and that's not someone that you're going to be able to trade for and different things. It's just one of those things that, like, yes, I'm really hitting on the value of Luis Arias owners. If you have a Luis Arias, I would trade him because the expected drop-off is coming soon. Whereas Ronald Acuna Jr. is actually performing super-duper high at a 327 average for power and speed, but his expected batting average is actually even supposed to be up plus 25 points. So that's something, super valuable to understand if you're a Ronald Acuna Jr., owner, and or if you're really going to go big game hunting. If you're, a team that has just overmatched and incredible pitching staff, and you're looking to get an outfielder from someone, and you're looking to trade, again, go big name hunting and trade. I think that Ronald Acuna Jr.'s overall expected production is going to be even higher moving forward through the season, which is wild because, again, his expected average is, 25 points above. And Corey Seager is similar. He's hitting 346 average, so much higher than Ronald Acuna Jr. Has been extra productive since he's come back from the IL, but he has an actual difference in expected average of minus 21 points. So with Corey Seager, he has been just about as hot as anyone in baseball since he's come off the IL, playing for the number one offense in Major League Baseball. But to me, given those stats, he is someone who is going to start digressing. If you're a Corey Seager owner, I think that this is the highest he's going to be valued at, and I kind of expect him. He doesn't make it through full seasons at this point with the injury history, that you could probably get the most back for him as well. So the overall point is Luis Arias Jr., I think, is the biggest trade value he's ever going to be right now. And I think that Corey Seager is also the greatest trade value of anybody right this second as well, if you have a lot of quality shortstops in mind. So the answer, again, is Ronald Acuna Jr. and Corey Seager for the reasons that I said before. And this next part is I always try to focus on total bases. So, regardless of what your average is or how many home runs you hit, how individually productive are you as a player, regardless of who's around you. It doesn't matter if you have, think about Giancarlo Stanton on the Marlins back in the day. We didn't have a whole lot of help around him. Maybe that's not a super great comparison because Yelich and Ozuna are pretty good. But anyways, think about a player who's just kind of stuck on a poor roster like a Brian Reynolds over these years, who is individually super productive but just doesn't have a lot of help around them. These are the players that we always want to invest into. And so far this season, who is leading the league so far in Major League Baseball with 175 total bases? And this is just an opportunity to really give somebody all of the love that they are receiving. They are mostly receiving through the years. I think last year's number one total bases guy obviously was Aaron Judge, and behind him was Austin Riley, and then the Freddie Freemans of the world. Bo Bichette just beat, or actually tied with the first person to get to 100 hits so far this season with Luis Arias. It's not Bo Bichette. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been extra productive because he's been stealing 30 bases, but not as many total bases overall. How productive are you as a hitter? If you get a double, that's 2 points. If you get a triple, that's 3 points. If you get a single and you steal second, that's still only 1 point. The answer is Shohei Ohtani with 175. And really just to put that into perspective of why he's so special, and making sure that he gets all of the all-star votes that he deserves. They talk about him plenty across most networks, but he, on his team, for someone who is only allowed to pitch 6 days a week and is playing every day as a DH, he leads his own team that has Mike Trout and several other all-star candidate talent players in at-bats, hits, triples, home runs, RBIs, average, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, and stolen bases. Every single aspect of being a productive offensive batter, he's achieving all of those things. So it's just an opportunity to give love to Shohei Ohtani. And also on his own team, he is also leading from a pitching standpoint in innings pitched, whip, ERA, and strikeout. So the answer is Shohei Ohtani, and just the fact that, like, again, a player who is expected to do so much both as a two-way player is also the most productive so far batter of anyone in Major League Baseball. It's wild to absorb that, and we really have a treat and cherish this moment in this window where we get to see, possibly the best player of all time. Submit your answer. That's the answer. Next, really, really important person that I wanted to hit on over the last 30 innings pitched. This specific starting pitcher has produced 45 strikeouts, has a 0.60 ERA, and a 0.90 whip. And this is a player who was most likely drafted inside of the top 100, who's really struggled to begin the year, and someone that I've really spent a lot of time making sure that everyone's staying strong on, because I'm a big this person believer. And, the hint is he's traditionally known as a very slow starter, but a strong finisher. So someone who often it will get dropped partway through the year and then ends up being like someone's ace kind of like heading into the playoffs. And to even hit on my point even further, in 2022, obviously this guy had a super good year, but started off pretty treacherous. And in May, 4.80 ERA, June, 6.20 ERA, July, 2.81 ERA, August 2.81 ERA, September 2.17, October 1.50 ERA. So we've shown across his years where he's bounced around to, it is really hitting on the fact where he starts off super slow. He's frustrating in the beginning, but this is not the time to trade this player because he's super high, because he's had an entire month, last 30 innings pitched. He's been worth over 100 points, probably. It's say half of his yearly value he's earned just in the last month. This is when you stay strong. So of all those hints that I've given you so far, we would probably erase Michael Kopech, because Michael Kopech is usually someone like last year being his rookie full year, started off super hot and then tailed off once he kind of had a couple little minor injuries. So far this year, he's kind of been hot and cold. Kevin Gausman's been pretty consistent. So we're going to eliminate him. So it's really between Luis Castillo and Blake Snell. To narrow it down even further, Luis Castillo has been really consistent this entire year. The answer is Blake Snell. If you're a Blake Snell owner, I'm a big guy, obviously, even with the last question, a big advocate of trading people away when they are at their most valuable, but Blake Snell has not even achieved his full potential. He's someone that I'm very, very big on. Always someone who's always going to throw between 100 and 110 pitches, per outing, which is kind of hard to find in today's baseball. He's only going once per 6 days, which kind of sucks. But it's just someone that that's extra reliable. He is a workhorse. He's going to make it if he is efficient in the beginning of the game. He essentially is going to get thrown into the 6th and 7th inning as long as he hasn't ran through his pitch count. Has a really, really good strikeout ratio and all of those things. So the answer is Blake Snell, and I am really excited that he's finally turning the corner as expected. So another player that we're going to focus on. So the 4 names that you see below, Ryan Noda, Stuart Fairchild, Nick Prado, and Jack Sawinski are all pretty available across all fantasy baseball formats, regardless of if you're playing categories or points or whatever. There's 2 active batters right now with a minimum of 150 plate appearances in the top 10 in both sweet spot percentage and solid contact rate. And one is Corey Seager, which is not available. You would have to trade for Corey Seager, but the other is less than 5% owned for the most part, which is you can be attributed towards any of these guys and any of these availabilities. And why I think sweet spot percentage and solid contact rate, putting those 2 things together, are important, because sweet spot percentage is basically how often are you hitting the ball between 8 and 32 degrees in that plane when you're making contact. So essentially, you're eliminating balls that are going straight into the ground, being slowed down, gobbled up by the infielders. So line drives, essentially, to home run capable carrying, trajectories. So anywhere between an 8 and 32 degree angle. And then if you look at solid contact rate, a ball that's hit in the air with a decent likelihood to be an extra base hit. And this is a super ambiguous stat because it's basically, again, grabbing all of the data that StatCast has collected through the years and basically grabbed every single ball that ended up being a base hit and basically saying if it was hit at this angle and this exit velocity, it ended up being a base hit. But also there's, the absolute screamers that are smacked right at, right at defenders. It's like if you have a guy that is smacking, just unlucky, like smacking the ball straight to outfielders that on a rope, that would be a double or a triple if he would have just hit it literally feet either direction. It's really kind of rewarding the players that are just making super solid contact. Solid contact rate. It's in the name. So looking at all of these people, each of these players fit inside of one of the categories, but only one of them rank in the top 10, along with Corey Seager in both sweet spot percentage and solid contact rate. And the answer is Ryan Noda with the Oakland Athletics. And the kind of the underlying thing that I think is important about Ryan Noda is he's only 3% owned across most formats. He's an every single day player, and he only hits between the 1 and the 3 hole. He's traditionally the 2 hitter every day in that Oakland Athletic lineup, in between Ruiz and Brent Rooker. But like anytime that Ruiz even like has one breather day, if he's going to play probably 159 games out of 162. But if he ever takes a break, then Noda has traditionally even like filled in to that leadoff spot. So it's just like someone that they very clearly believe in. He's going to get a ton of at bats. And if you are hurting at first base or outfield specifically, given these things that are, being attributed to him with his sweet spot rate and his solid contact rate, I think that this is a player that you can invest in, knowing that he's going to have really quality at bats, but he's just not going to have as many at bats because Oakland's just getting grossly outperformed from an offensive and defensive perspective. But that's not Ryan Noda's fault. So again, looking for these individual productive players, Ryan Noda is productive. That is the answer to the question. And on to question number 6. There is a pitcher in Major League Baseball that leads in expected batting average against. So, taking away the ERA and the, poor kind of like the defense, the difference. So like a hit that is given up if Kyle Schwarber is the outfielder compared to a hit that is given up to Kevin Kiermaier are very different things, right? If a hit that is splitting the gap, rolling all the way to the fence, that's a double. That is a hit against whoever, gave that up. Kevin Kiermaier is now a Toronto Blue Jay. Let's just say that Jose Barrios is on the mound. If he throws that ball and it gets to the fence with Kevin Kiermaier as your defensive center fielder, you gave up a really solid hit ball, and that's your fault. But if there's a ball that gets looped into the corner and you're Aaron Nola and Kyle Schwarber just didn't make it there because he's a bigger individual who doesn't run super duper well. That was a hit against you on the scorecard, but was it an expected hit? Was it supposed to fall? Like Kyle Schwarber is going to be the kind of like the person constantly working against the average to pull things down. So it really gives an opportunity and like a way for you to deduct like who has a more reasonable ERA compared to others. And, it's just really another opportunity for me to hit on the importance and this really special opportunity to get hit on the fact that Shohei Ohtani is the answer. The fact that Shohei Ohtani is playing, again, only every 6 days, he is just absolutely incredible. And if you aren't taking the opportunities to watch him, please do it because it's so special. How you get good at fantasy baseball is watching baseball all the time. And if you can see my TV, I have the Angels game even on right now. I don't care about the Angels or the Dodgers per se, but just I need it's a life experience to be able to watch this guy play. Super important. And again, another nugget is that MLB TV all year so far has been free because of all of the negotiation rights and things being messed up between the the broadcasters and the the partners, the teams, the commercial broadcasting contracts and things. So Shohei Ohtani is the answer. You have no reason not to watch him. Just trying to give him some extra love. So your all-star votes, even though you don't vote pitchers in, just make sure that he gets your vote if you fill out a bracket or a ballot at all. So Shohei Ohtani is the answer. Next, I think this one's kind of fun. All right, not that we've been having fun the whole time, but name this starting pitcher. And the specific thing about this starting pitcher is that what's interesting is that he does not have a winning record. He also has a 4.70 ERA. So if you were to pull up his scorecard in your fantasy baseball app or online, you would see a player that looks like he's struggling, but this is kind of like the value of this video is even though he doesn't have a winning record, so he doesn't have an offense that's helping him out when he is pitching, not his fault. And a 4.70 ERA, we already talked about that. The expected ERA is something that you kind of want to more focus on than his actual ERA, because how productive and how good is his defense? Something he can't control. That's the general manager's job. So if we look more into it, in all of Major League Baseball, this guy specifically ranks 6th in expected batting average against. And he's currently 11th in strikeout percentage. So the guys that I have up on this board are guys that are having somewhat down years, but are able to strike out a lot of people and make up for a lot of things. So if we look at Hunter Green with the Reds, Edward Cabrera of the Miami Marlins, Aaron Nola with the Phillies, and Pablo Lopez with the Minnesota Twins. Basically, I'm trying to make the argument for that these guys are not winning. So you think about they don't have a winning record. If they're losing games because they're not getting run support, that's not their fault. Aaron Nola last season was the second most productive fantasy baseball pitcher in all of fantasy, but he actually had a losing record. So therefore, he didn't finish where he should have because just didn't even have an average run support. He was at the very, very bottom. So players that we're trying to, again, uncover the true value of said thing. The answer overall is Edward Cabrera. And why I want to talk about Edward Cabrera is because he actually just got put on the IL. He's probably getting dropped left and right across most leagues, or he's already been dropped. He's only owned right now in 14% of leagues, really across every single format. So if you have an empty or an open IL slot on your bench, and if you're someone who has who gets big bonus points for strikeouts, I think that Edward Cabrera is a super awesome scoop and steal, given the underlying stats that he is 6th overall in Major League Baseball so far this year in expected batting average against, and again, 11th in strikeout percentage. So he's a super productive player. It's just, honestly, in my opinion, has had some really bad luck. So Edward Cabrera is the answer. And these guys, have similar stats. They're that they should be producing better than they usually do. And I am a huge Aaron Nola believer, but specifically focusing on Edward Cabrera, I think that you as a fantasy owner can take advantage of this while, he's on the IL and he won't cost you anything to pick him up and just slot him into your IL until he becomes back available. And he should be available at the minimum 10 days that he was put on the IL, 10 or 15 days. With a shoulder impingement. All right. For the first time, and I think it was 20 years or some sort of stat, 2 closers with a minimum of 11 saves. I didn't want to talk about Craig Kimbrel with the Philadelphia Phillies, so I took him out of there. I should have left him as an option, given that I literally put it as an option. 2 closers with the in Major League Baseball so far this season with at least a minimum of 11 saves have yet to blow a save opportunity this entire year. And that's really, really special given that we're just about halfway through the season. And, here are the options. So we've already talked about how C is not available because I messed up and said that Craig Kimbrel is not the answer, but Camilo Duvall has only given up or blown 1 or 2 saves so far this year. And the Giants are on a huge 9-game winning streak. They're doing super well. Felix Bautista has been the reliever of the year so far, in my opinion. He's got a 50% strikeout rate. Is absolutely killing it. Will Smith, not a big strikeout guy, but he's getting all kinds of save opportunities. Has been extra productive and has not given up hardly any runs at all since he's come into that closer role with Texas. And that's been a big sore spot with Texas for a long time. Just weren't really getting a ton of production out of their closer role, and now they're able to get a mercenary veteran come in and do as well as he has. It's nice to see Will Smith kind of resurge back, even though he's not a player I've ever owned or had in fantasy. Just kind of good for him. Anyways, on to David Bednar. Lights out to begin the year. It's just that he hasn't had as many opportunities as of late since Pittsburgh's quieted down just a little bit. Devin Williams, reliever of the year multiple times. He's been perfect on the season just about. And then the Alexis Diaz with Cincinnati Reds, because Cincinnati Reds have the longest winning streak of 11 right now. And it's the longest since 1957. And Alexis Diaz has been a huge part of that and has pitched almost every game that they've needed a save, along with Gilbo, and then also Carlos Estevez. Man, I just hope and pray, knock on wood. I'm not an Angels fan, but I truly just want to see how good the Angels are with 2 of the best players in all of Major League Baseball, head to head every single day against the league. And again, thankfully so far this year, they have been healthy and they have been super successful and are currently in a playoff spot. So before I go into any more, I will just say the answer, and it is D, Alexis Diaz, Cincinnati Reds, and Carlos Estevez with the Los Angeles Angels. These 2 people, both were probably undrafted to start the year, and it really just shows the importance of, if you miss out on closers in your draft, a lot of times there will be, almost every year I've ever played fantasy baseball, there will be an all-star level closer coming from your free agency pile that end up being, one of your main super important players. And it's just not that consistent across every other position. So if Alexis Diaz and Carlos Estevez are somehow available in your leagues, which they might be, or available even for trade, these guys have been absolutely lights out. I've watched them a ton, given them a Reds fan, and I own Carlos Estevez in every league. These are guys that you can absolutely invest into. They're practically untouchable so far this year. And being 20 saves, no blown save, or 20 saves with Alexis Diaz, no blown. Carlos Estevez, 19 saves so far this year, nothing blown. They're setting records as we speak, and I just thought it was special and something to hone in on. And then next, and I think my final question, I talked about earlier the importance of total bases and how you measure that. Measure that across batter to batter. It's really determining who is most productive individually. Now I want to talk about who's surrendered as a starting pitcher, the least number of total bases, or at least a super important and super special number that is less total bases than innings pitched so far this year, which is wild because you think about if a player gave up 1 home run in an inning, they now have to pitch 5 clean innings, no hit baseball before they can essentially pitch more innings pitched, more than total bases that they've given up. I think it's impossible almost to do this across an entire season. But again, we're halfway through the year, and one of these players that I have put below has been pretty much untouchable. At least they've been touchable, but not solid contact rate, which is a solid hint. So the options are Marcus Stroman with the Chicago Cubs, Framber Valdez with the Houston Astros, Shohei Ohtani, who I've talked about a lot with the Los Angeles Angels, and Sonny Gray, who's having an awesome comeback year. Easy guy to root for with the Minnesota Twins. And the answer is Marcus Stroman. So Marcus Stroman, a guy that I am, I've never really been super high on, but he has pitched 95 innings he's pitched 98.2 innings pitched, and he's only given up 95 total bases, less than a single per innings pitched. And though his strikeout rate's not super good, so only across 98 innings pitched, he only has 83 strikeouts. But just one of those things where it's like he's got a 1.02 WHIP. I would imagine this number would be way less. His WHIP would be way under one, given how productive he's been and how many people he's kept off of base. But we can see that when he is giving up hits, it's just it's singles at a time and walks, and that's essentially the only runs that are getting scored on him. So super productive year. I would be proud of him if I was a Cubs fan. Obviously, I think that he has to regress, right? If you think about fantasy baseball owners, he has more balls being put into play than most. It just so happens to be that they're light contact and all these things. We've seen lots of guys succeed in this way before. Last season, same thing with Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara, every time that he doesn't strike out a ton of people, but just no one ever gets solid contact rate on him speaking of him last year, similar kind of situation. It's just one of those things where I don't think it's as sustainable. And this is another opportunity where if you are a Marcus Stroman owner, it's been long enough in the season where he is going to be valued as a super highly touted pitching option to trade away. For me, it would be someone that I would trade away as soon as possible, given how successful he's been. But I just expect him to digress, given that he's just not missing enough bats. More balls in play equal more guys on base equals more runs against you. More runs against you turn into possible losses. He doesn't have a good offense around him. Their offense has been overachieving, in my opinion, so far this year. So I think this is another player that is going to digress, and that's the answer. And that is the end of the quiz. I scored an 8 out of 8 on my own thing. I can't freaking believe it. If you guys enjoyed this, if you guys appreciate my perspective on kind of how I look at baseball and kind of defy stats, I obviously produce and help with a lot of the fantasy six-pack productions. But also, if you are interested, I have listed in the comments my own fantasy baseball channel where I deduct everything that I feel like is important, but I do it in a way that is very data-driven and decision-making, and then also focus on kind of like transforming value into tangibility when it comes to trades and moving players around and just making the most of your roster. So happy Thursday, happy almost Friday, almost weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. So thank you for your time. Bye.